Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Kids Meal Network Site Supervisor Training for 2022. This year, things are going to look a little different than they did the last 2 years. The last 2 years, we had grab and go service where kids and adults could come pick up food and take it home with them. This year, we are back to normal like we were in 2019 and before that, where all kids must eat on site. It's called congregate feeding, and we'll go over that later on in the training. Kids Meal Network is a part of the Summer Food Service Program, which is a program of the USDA. The program was established so that low-income children could continue to receive nutritious meals when school is not in session. During the school year, a lot of students receive free or reduced price lunches, which is part of the National School Lunch Program, and this is the summer version of it. Site eligibility is determined by location, and the sites must be in an economically needy area, and that is determined by the USDA with census data and also school data, and also if it's located in low-income housing or public housing. And our sites are open to all children. So any student who is 18 or younger is able to come to our site to receive food. Anybody who is 18 or younger, or any person with a disability over 18 who is enrolled in a school program is also eligible. And in order to be enrolled in a school program, they have to be 21 or younger. So you're looking for children that are 18 or younger or 21 or younger if they have a disability. Every site must have a site supervisor, and that's what this training will teach you how to be. It's best to have more than one site supervisor trained because there always has to be a trained site supervisor present during meal service. So if you're sick or you're on vacation, if you do not have another site supervisor trained, then your site will have to close until you can come back and oversee the site. Your responsibilities are to oversee meal service and maintain organization at the site, serve eligible meals to eligible participants, maintain organization and accountability, complete required paperwork, comply with all regulations, including civil rights, report any problems to the sponsor, and United Methodist Church Union is your sponsor, complete necessary training, which you're doing right now, and you'll need to understand rules and regulations of the Summer Food Service Program and your expected duties before, during, and after meal service. And you will learn all of those things in this training. We're going to start off by talking about meal pattern requirements. Now, this isn't something that you have to worry too much about because all of your food is going to be delivered to you by a vendor, and everybody's vendor this year is Nutrition Group. In order to be an eligible meal, breakfast must include a vegetable or fruit, a grain or a bread, and a milk. Lunch and supper must include a milk, 2 servings of fruits and vegetables, and they have to be 2 different food items. So you can't have 2 servings of grapes or apples or something like that. You must have a grain or a bread and a meat or a meat alternative. And for snack, you must have 2 food items from 2 of the 4 component groups. Now, our component groups are fruits and vegetables, meats and meat alternatives, grains or bread, and milk. Now, you'll notice that in breakfast, lunch, and supper, you must have a milk. Some kids don't like milk. Some kids don't want to take the milk. They have to take the milk in order for it to be an eligible meal. If they do not take the milk, then it's not an eligible meal and you can't count it. So each meal is made up of these different components, and they have to take all of those required components for it to be an eligible meal and for us to get reimbursed for that eligible meal. So even though Nutrition Group is serving everything or is delivering everything to you, you have to make sure to serve each and every component to the kiddos that come. So if you forget to serve the apple that goes with the meal, then that meal is no longer eligible because it doesn't have the required fruit and vegetable components in it. So make sure that you're serving everything that's delivered and then you'll have eligible meals, and we'll be able to get reimbursed for those. As I mentioned earlier, all sites this year will be congregate, and that means that all children must eat all meals on site within sight of the site supervisor. Exceptions are the walking apple rule, which means that children can take one item from the fruit or vegetable or grain category off-site to consume later. So if they walk out with, their bag of chips or their apple, it's not a big deal, but the majority of the meal has to be consumed on site within sight of the site supervisor. So I would not even tell your kiddos about this. I would just expect them to sit and eat all of the food in front of you. This might seem silly, especially with the grab and go the last couple of years, but this is a government rule. It is not our rule, and we just have to follow it. If we don't follow all the rules that the government sets forth for us, then we don't get reimbursed. And if we don't get reimbursed, then we can't afford to put on these programs. So it's super important that you follow all the rules and guidelines that we're going over today, even if they might seem a little silly to you. So for field trips, sites can take food on a field trip, but the regular site must also stay open. So if you don't have staff to staff the normal site and the field trip site, then you cannot take food on your field trip site. You'll either have to close the site for that day or do the field trip before or after meal service. And all trips must be approved at least 2 weeks prior to the trip day. So I need to know so that I can put it in the state application so that it gets approved by the state before you can take your field trip. Next, we're going to talk about ordering meals. Your main objective when planning for the number of meals is to provide one meal per child, and that's so that we plan to minimize food waste. It can be really tricky to figure out how many meals you need each day because we are all open sites. So there's no registration, there's no signups. We're really not sure how many kids we're going to see each day. Some of us have outdoor sites. So if it's 95 degrees, we might not get as many kids as when it's 75 degrees out. And of course, we have no way to really predict the weather. So just do your best to plan for one meal per child. And you will not be ordering directly from Nutrition Group. You text me every day with your meal numbers so that I can adjust the meal orders, and I will talk to Nutrition Group and they will send the appropriate amount of meals. So at the end of every day, you're going to text me, and my number's on the screen, and send me a picture of your meal count sheet, which we'll go over later. And that will show me exactly how many meals I need to order for the next couple of days. Because Nutrition Group is able to switch the amount of meals delivered within a 48-hour period, I may be asking some of you to use your leftover meals this year, which we weren't really able to do in the past just because we had a different vendor and it took a week or two to get those meal number changed. So I did ask some of you to use leftover meals this year, and I might do that again this year, and that will definitely help us to minimize food waste. And again, just let me know of any special days as soon as possible. That includes field trips. So I might need to order more or less of the meals for that day. For example, if you're having a community day and you expect, 20 extra kids, let me know. I'll get you 20 extra meals. Or if you know that there's a community day down the block and all the kids will be going to that community day, we can either close your site or we can just order you less meals for that day. So just have an open line of communication with me and we'll get you the right amount of meals. On to receiving meals. The delivery drivers must give you a delivery sheet. If the drivers don't have an extra copy and you do not have access to a copy machine, you can take a picture with your phone and make sure that the delivery driver knows that he or she must give you a copy in the future. That delivery sheet is proof that the meals were delivered. It's proof that you got, if you're having lunch, all 5 components. So it's really important that you get that delivery sheet from them. Once the meals are delivered, you're going to check the temperature of the food. All cold food must be delivered and stored at a maximum of 41 degrees Fahrenheit. So the food cannot be over 41 degrees Fahrenheit when it's delivered. If it's not at the required temp, then the food will have to be refused. If the food is refused, do not let the driver go until he or she has contacted nutrition group and the problem is resolved. So if you have cut apples that are supposed to be at 41 degrees Fahrenheit, but they're at 55, the driver will contact nutrition group, and most likely the nutrition group will tell the driver to go to the grocery store and get you a bag of uncut apples or oranges or whatever fruit or vegetable so that you can make up that eligible, or you can reproduce the eligible meal. If they don't make it better, if they don't fix it for you, if they don't bring you in apples or oranges or whatever you need more of because the temperature is not correct, then that meal is no longer eligible because it's not following an eligible meal pattern requirement. If it's not eligible, we cannot get reimbursed. And again, if we don't get reimbursed, then we don't have the funding for these programs. So it's very, very important that if there's a problem with food temperatures, you tell the delivery driver to contact nutrition group and fix it. Milk also has to be at 41 degrees Fahrenheit. However, if it is a little bit above, milk isn't that big of a deal. We can put that milk on ice and get that temp down before it's served. We're going to say that that number is 50 degrees Fahrenheit. So if your milk is at 50 degrees Fahrenheit or above, then we're going to refuse it. However, if that's 49 or below, we can get it on ice and we can cool it down before it's served. Okay, now we're going to talk about quantity. Once the food is temped, you have your delivery sheet. We're going to count each item and make sure it matches the number on the delivery sheet. If you have an order for 20 hamburgers, you need to make sure that you have 20 patties, 20 buns, 20 of each side, and 20 milks. If the quantity is incorrect, do not let the driver go until he or she has contacted nutrition group and the problem is resolved. If they only brought you 10 hamburger buns, the driver will contact nutrition group and nutrition group will tell them, go to the grocery store and get them 10 more buns. They'll get you 10 buns, bring it back. Now you have enough. Once the delivery driver leaves, there's nothing, and they haven't contacted nutrition group, you let them go. There's nothing that we can do. We can't prove that we didn't get enough. So it's really important that you make sure that we have the right quantity of each individual item. Because again, if you only have 10 hamburger buns, then that's 10 ineligible meals that we're going to serve and not get reimbursed for. But if you tell the delivery driver and he makes it right, then everything's fine. There may be an instance when the delivery driver says there's nothing I can do about it. Nutrition group says that I'm just going to mark that you didn't have 10 oranges or you didn't have 10 buns or something. And in that case, we won't get charged for those 10 meals if nutrition group says that they can't make it right. Then we have the proof, we have the phone calls and the records that we don't have to pay for those 10 meals that were no longer eligible. You're going to record the time and the food temperature when it was delivered on the delivery sheet. So here is an example of the delivery sheet. You can see that they got 20 lunches, they got 10 white milks and 10 chocolate milks. They got carrots and clementines. So the delivery driver came, gave them the delivery receipt. This person took the temperature and wrote the temperature right under the milk. They took the temperature and wrote it under the lunch. And then, of course, they counted everything to make sure they have enough. And we then put the time that it was delivered, and initialed it. So this is a complete delivery slip, and this is what all of your delivery slips should look like. Now you're going to keep this delivery slip in your binder, and I'll tell you how to organize your paperwork towards the end of the training, but make sure that you're keeping this. This is not the copy that you're giving back to Nutrition Group. This is your copy. You're keeping it, and it's going in your binder. Here we have our milk temperature log. Now, even though you took the temperature when it was delivered and you wrote it on the delivery slip, you also have to put it on this milk temp log. The state loves to look at the milk temp log to make sure that everything's under control. Take the milk temp when it's delivered, put it on the delivery slip, and then also put it on the sheet. This is not a daily log. This is going to be a running log of all of the milk temps. So I wrote down the date and the time, and then I wrote down the milk temp. The next day, use the same exact sheet, put down the date and the time and the milk. And then the next day, I put down the date and the time and the milk. And you just keep going until this whole sheet is full. In your binders, you have 3, so theoretically, you could do 1 per month if you want, or you can just keep going on the same one. It's not a big deal, just as long as you're not doing it daily, because then you'll run out of logs. I know that we talked about milk maybe being a little bit higher when it's delivered in temp. If that is the case, I mean, we want it to be 41 degrees. If it's a little bit higher, go ahead and put the temperature down, the correct temperature, and then once you actually serve it, so here it was delivered at 9, say it was 48 degrees. Once you serve it at noon, I would log again, June 10th, 12 p.m., 41 degrees Fahrenheit. That way they know that we did get it down in time to be served. At the very end, when all this whole sheet is filled in, then you're going to sign and date it. Very important that you sign and date it so that this is considered an official record of your milk logs, of your milk temperatures. If it's not signed and dated, it's not an official record. So please make sure that you're signing and dating everything. Every sheet of paper is going to need a signature and a date. So please make sure that you're doing that. Now we're going to go over the daily temperature log, and you'll fill this out right before you serve meals. Remember that all hot food must be heated to a minimum of 165 degrees Fahrenheit before serving the food. Before serving, food temperature must be taken and recorded on the daily temp log. Now this is different than the delivery log. You must take the temperature twice, once on the delivery log when it's delivered, and once on the daily temperature log right before you serve. The only exception to this rule is if the food is served within an hour of delivery, and only for cold food. So if you're getting cold foods like salads and sandwiches, and it's delivered at 11:15 and you have a 12 o'clock service time, you don't have to take this extra step and do the daily temperature log. You can just go with the delivery slip temperatures and you'll be good to go. It definitely doesn't hurt to do the daily temperature log, even if your food is delivered within an hour of service, but you don't have to do it. First, we're going to go over what a daily temperature log would look like for cold food. All of the cold food will come in unitized meals, which are these nice little trays that have all the food in it. You don't have to take temperatures of the individual components of that food. You can just take the temperature of the whole tray. So we're only going to take one temperature for this at 11:55 right before service. And it was 40.2 degrees Fahrenheit, and it has to be 41 or less, so this is perfect. We also have milk, and at 11:55 the temperature was 39 degrees Fahrenheit, which is below 41 degrees, so we're good to go. This daily temp log is complete, so I'm going to sign it and date it. Please remember to sign and date all of your paperwork. Next, we're going to take a look at what a hot meal might look like. Your hot meal is going to be delivered cold, so make sure that you're heating it up to at least 165 degrees Fahrenheit, and right before you serve it, you'll complete the daily temperature log. Today we have chicken tenders, and at 11:55 a.m., they were 172 degrees Fahrenheit. We also have some green beans, and at 11:55, they were 174 degrees Fahrenheit. We also have sliced watermelon, which is a cold food and has to be kept cold. At 11:55 a.m., it was 39 degrees Fahrenheit. And we also have milk. At 11:55, it was 39 degrees Fahrenheit. So all of these temperatures are in the safe zone. This is a complete daily temperature log. I'm going to sign and date it, and it's good to go. Remember that the daily temperature log is done daily for each meal. It is not a running log like the milk log, so make sure that you're doing one of these every day, and this will go in the folder in the back of your binder along with your meal count sheet and your delivery slip. One thing that I need to note is that these daily temperature logs up at the top say that hot food must be at least 135 degrees Fahrenheit. These are daily temp logs that we have used in previous years where food was delivered hot. All food has to be cooked to 165 degrees Fahrenheit and held at a minimum of 135. This year, because we're cooking all of our own food on site, reheating it on site, that number should be 165 degrees Fahrenheit. The papers in your binder also say 135, so please make sure to take note that it is actually 165 degrees Fahrenheit for hot food. Next, we're going to talk about serving meals. All right, so the delivery truck came, we got the delivery slip, we counted, we temped the food, we heated the food up, we did the daily temp log, we did the milk log, and now we are ready to serve our food. We need to use the daily meal count form, which is in your binder. This serves as proof of numbers of meals served. Meals must be counted and recorded as they are served to each child. So not when they're walking in the door, not when you see them walking up your street. When you give them a meal, that is when you count it. It might be that 8 kids walk in your door, but only 6 take meals. So you don't want to count all 8. They didn't all take a meal. So once you serve a meal, then you count it. And you need to make sure that each form is accurate, complete, signed, and dated. Like I said, this serves as proof of the number of meals served. So this piece of paper is super important. This is how we get reimbursed for the meals that you served at your Kids Meal Network site. If it's not signed and dated, it's not legit. It's not going to be counted. So make sure that you sign and date it. That's saying that everything is complete, everything is right, and those are actually the amount of meals that you gave out to kiddos. While you're serving the meals, please make sure to have a pleasant attitude towards the food. If you have a negative attitude towards the food, so will the kiddos. So, these are gourmet meals that are being served. These are complete nutritious meals that we are serving. Because a lot of you are going to be heating up the food, you'll have the opportunity to add some spices, offer some ketchup on the side, and those will make the meals a little bit more tasty. But still, it's not going to be, from the gourmet kitchen down the road. But we do know that these are healthy, nutritious meals, and that is what we need to get in our kiddos. At one of our trainings recently, somebody said that our competition isn't the summer food service programs on the road. Our competition is the tub of ice cream and the Doritos at their house. So I really liked how she put that because it's totally true. These meals are good for kiddos. They're going to help their bodies grow. They're going to help their brains grow. So it's really important that we make these meals fun and appealing and tasty for kids, because if we don't, they're just going to sit at home and eat the Doritos and ice cream. And we know that isn't good for their bodies. It's not good for their brains. So do everything that you can to have a pleasant attitude towards these meals and these programs. Also, while you're serving meals, you must provide reasonable modifications to accommodate persons with physical or mental impairment. So if your site has stairs, you must find a way to serve children who cannot use the stairs. So if your site is down in the basement and you have a kiddo in a wheelchair and you have no elevator, then you need to make sure that you have a way to know when that kiddo is there and bring a meal up to them. You technically are supposed to sit and eat with them, but you've got a room full of kiddos downstairs. So we're not going to worry about that too much. you just really want to make sure that you're not, you're not pushing anybody away because they have any type of mental or physical impairment. So make sure that you're being accommodating to everybody. I will talk a little bit about allergies. That is, we only have to accommodate allergies if we're given a doctor's excuse or note. So if somebody comes in and says, I'm allergic to apples, you really still have to give them the apple because it makes the complete and eligible meal. And if we don't give them apple, then we can't get reimbursed for it. But if they come in with a doctor's note that says that they can't have apples, then you're allowed to find a substitute for it. And honestly, also, if you have a substitute for it and they say that they're allergic without a doctor's excuse and you don't think it's going to be a problem, go ahead and substitute something for it. You don't want to make a habit of that though, unless they do have a doctor's excuse, because then you're going to find that more and more kiddos are going to come up with allergies when really they just don't like the food. And we need to serve all of the food that we're getting because then it makes an eligible meal. And if we're not serving eligible meals, we don't get reimbursed and then we can't have the program. So just make sure that you're using your best judgment. And again, we do not have to accommodate allergies unless there's a doctor's note. Now we're going to talk about that super duper important meal count sheet that proves that you are serving eligible meals to eligible students. Here's our meal count sheet for this year. It looks a little bit different than last year. That's to try to ease some confusion that we've had in the past couple years. So we're going to start by crossing off children as they take a meal. So first kiddo comes over and takes a meal. Second kiddo comes over and takes a meal. 3 kiddos come in, but only 2 kiddos take a meal. Kiddo takes a meal. Somebody else takes a meal. Takes a meal. Okay. So we had 8 kiddos take a meal. It is now the end of our serving time. Our serving time was 12 to 1. It's 1 o'clock, so I cannot serve any more meals. I'm going to go ahead and complete the rest of the form. I had 8 total first meals. No kids came back for second meals, which they are allowed, and if they do, then you can just cross out the numbers as they come, but none came today. I had 3 program adults that took meals today, so I put a 3 there. I did not serve any non-program adult meals. And non-program adult meals are adults that did not help out with the program, which we really need to avoid serving them. We don't get any reimbursement for any adult meals, but it's just frowned upon in the government world if we serve people that don't help out with the program. An easy way to make them a program adult is to hand them a towel and ask them to wipe off a table, or ask them to pick up some trash around the area. That will make them a program adult meal and it'll make the government happy. Okay, so now I'm going to get the total of all the meals that I served, and I served 11 total meals today. I did not have any damaged or incomplete or non-reimbursable meals. You might run into this if you have unitized meals and you have to poke a hole in the meal to get the temperature. Then you might have 1 damaged meal, but hopefully we won't have too many of those. I had 9 leftover meals today from today's meal service. All right, now I'm gonna fill out total number of items. So total number of items is the total number of meals served and the total number of leftover meals, which adds up to 20. And I had 20 new meals received today. I did not use any leftovers from the previous day. I did not use any shelf-stable meals. So I had a total of 20 meals in that line. We had 20 total available meals and we had 20 total available items. So it all checks out because total of items 8 should equal total meals available 9. This next box is number of additional children requesting a meal after all available meals were served, which we didn't have any because we had plenty of leftover meals. Make sure that if you do have kids that request a meal, after meals are served or after the meals run out that you are tallying them up. That will tell me that I need to order you more food. So even if you run out of food at 12:15 and your service time is 12 to 1, you need to stay open until 1 o'clock and tally the number of kids that came for a meal, because then I will get you more food. All right, so I'm double checking this paper. I had 8 total first meals, 3 program adults, which means that I served 11 meals. I had 9 meals left over, which means I had 20 total meals. 20 and 20 are the same. So this paper is good to go. I'm going to sign it and date it. And now this is an official meal count paper that I can send into the government and get reimbursed for 8 of those meals. So now we're going to talk about leftovers. Leftovers can be served the next day if the site has refrigeration. So if you have a lot of leftovers, you can put them in the refrigerator and serve them the next day. And as you saw, there is a space for leftovers on your meal count sheet. If you are not comfortable keeping them or you don't have refrigeration, there are some things you can do. You can donate to a local food bank or charitable organizations, homeless shelters, food pantries, whatever you can think of. As long as those meals don't go in the garbage, we're happy. And make sure that you're communicating daily with me to make adjustments. Hopefully, we won't have that many leftovers this year, and we're going to minimize our food waste as much as we can, and you won't have to worry about leftovers too much. But if you do end up with leftovers, and you end up with a lot of leftovers, I might contact you and say, hey, can you keep those leftovers for Friday? You can serve them again that day, and I will cancel your meal order for that day so that we're minimizing food waste. So those are leftovers. Our next slide is about monitors. They are the eyes and ears for the sponsor, and they are your friends. They will do weekly visits to take your meal count forms, and they are trained in meal patterns, food safety, verifying meal orders, and meal count forms. They'll also conduct reviews, 3 of them, one called the first week site visit. The second one is the site review, which will happen the first 4 weeks. And the third one is racial and ethnic data. Now, the site review, the first 4-week review, that is a review that if anybody came from the state to check up on your site, they would be doing this review. So our monitors come out and do that review with you so that you're prepared for if a state monitor does come out. We only have one hired on monitor this summer, which is Jerome. Some of you probably know him. He's been with us for a few years. So it'll just be Jerome, myself, Sherry, and Bob, and maybe Beth, all staff doing the monitoring this year. A lot of times people see the monitors and they kind of get scared, but we are not there to, make fun of your mistakes or criticize you. We are all in this together, and we're just there to make sure that you're doing everything correctly so that everything is safe and the kids are getting safe, healthy meals, and that so that if the government or the state does decide to come out, that everything's in tip-top shape. So they're your friends. They're there to help you out. You can ask them if you need anything or if you have any questions. They're there to help you. Next, we're going to talk about food safety. One of the biggest things with food safety is to make sure that your hands are clean. Wash your hands for 20 seconds before every task. And you also need to wear your gloves while you're performing any Kidsville Network tasks. And make sure that you change them before every task. So, if you are preparing the food and then you're going to go take the garbage out, you need to take your gloves off, wash your hands, put more gloves on, take the garbage out. When you're done with that, if you're coming back to the food, take your gloves off, wash your hands, put more gloves on, and do your tasks. If you are doing a task with your gloves and then you touch your face, you need to take your gloves off, wash your hands, put new gloves on. Please, please, please use the gloves that we provide you. Every year we get tons of gloves back, and we shouldn't. You should be using your gloves and make sure that you're washing your hands as well. Make sure that you check food temps when the food is received, and you're going to put that on the delivery slip, and before it's served, and you're going to put that on the daily meal temp log. Hot food needs to be, well, this line is outdated. Hot food needs to be delivered and stored at a minimum of 135. We were getting hot food the last couple of years. That does not apply this year. This year we're getting cold food. So all cold food must be delivered and stored at a maximum of 41 degrees Fahrenheit. So 41 degrees is the magic number. Anywhere between 41 degrees and 165 is the danger zone. So that's where bacteria is rapidly spreading, and that's where you get your foodborne illnesses. So make sure that when the food is delivered, it's at 41 degrees Fahrenheit or lower. For those of you who are heating your food, make sure that you're heating your food to at least 165 degrees Fahrenheit. And then once you serve it, make sure that it is above 135 degrees Fahrenheit. Wipe down tables with sanitizing solution before and after a meal service to cut back on germs. And no one will have dishes because all the dishes that you receive from the nutrition group, you're going to just simply rinse and you'll give back to that delivery driver the next day. They're all reusable, but they are not disposable. So everything that you have, you're going to just rinse and give back to the nutrition group. They will take them back and wash, rinse, sanitize them properly. So you don't have to worry about that part. However, if you do end up with a utensil that is yours and you need to clean it, you need to wash it in hot water and dish soap, rinse it in hot, clean water, and sanitize it. Then it needs to air dry on a clean surface. So make sure that if you are using something from your own kitchen, you are remembering to do all 4 of those steps. However, you shouldn't have to do any of that because Nutrition Group is supplying everything, and then they'll take it back the next day and wash, rinse, sanitize it for you. Now we're going to talk about how to take the temperature of food. You're going to receive a thermometer, and before taking any food temperatures, you need to wipe it down with a probe wipe before placing it in food. Make sure that the thermometer is on and set to degrees Fahrenheit. If it's set to degrees Celsius, it's going to read much differently than if it were degrees Fahrenheit. For unitized or prepackaged meals, those will be for those of you who are getting cold meal that is delivered cold and served cold, like sandwiches, salads, that type of thing. You'll take 2 of the meals, place them together, and place the probe in between 2 of the packages, and that should give you an accurate reading. If that reading is above 41 degrees Fahrenheit, but by just a little bit, you can take one of those meals and stick the probe into it, just pierce the plastic and stick it right into one of the food items, and that will give you an accurate reading as well. By doing that, you are damaging one of the meals, and that's okay. You just need to write that on your meal count slip as a damaged meal. For milk, you can take 2 cartons and squeeze them together really tightly and put the probe right in between. If that is giving you a cold enough temperature, that's great. If not, you can open the carton and put the milk in, or put the probe into the milk. That will also damage that carton of milk, which means that even though it's just 1 carton of milk, it's an entire meal that you're no longer going to be able to serve all of the components. So you'll have to write that you have 1 damaged meal on your meal count slip. Items like bread, pitas, potato chips, and other shelf-stable food do not need to be temped. They can be whatever temperature and they are safe. All cold food must be temped and below 41 degrees Fahrenheit. And all cold food that needs to be heated must be heated to at least 165 degrees Fahrenheit. For fruit, sliced fruit or vegetables must be below 41 degrees Fahrenheit. As soon as a knife goes through a whole piece of fruit or a whole vegetable, it's introducing bacteria into that food item, and then it needs to be kept at 41 degrees or below. Otherwise, it's in the danger zone and bacteria can spread quickly and foodborne illnesses. So, but whole fruit, whole vegetables, they don't need to be temped because they are protected by their skin, so you don't have to worry about temping them. Like a whole orange or a whole apple or yeah, like a whole bell pepper. I don't know why they would give you that, but that's just an example of a vegetable. Now we're going to talk a little bit about getting the word out, so marketing for your food site. You can use social media to get the word out. Make sure that you're using bright and colorful pictures that catch people's eye. You can go door to door in your community, passing out flyers if you're comfortable doing that. You can ask local churches to announce your programs, ask local businesses to post your flyers. With social media, you can even post it on your own social media site, or you can join community sites and post it on those. Those get a lot of traction usually from people in your community, and it'll help you get the word out about your site. Now we're going to talk about some other items, including how to organize your paperwork. All paperwork needs to be sorted by day in the folder in the back of your binder. So that means your meal count sheet, then your delivery slip, then your daily temp log. Those three things are what you're going to be filling out every day. So put them by day in the back of your binder in that folder. Delivery times. We have no control over them, and we will issue them when we get them. It could be anywhere from 8 in the morning until 11:30 in the morning. It does not go by really when your meal service starts, although it has to be before your meal service starts, obviously. It's really more about the location and the route that Nutrition Group decides to give you. So that's that. Um, you and all of your volunteers must have the following clearances on file with United Methodist Church Union: the child abuse history clearance, the state police request for criminal records check, and also the FBI fingerprint clearance. You have to have those done and on file before your site starts. If there's a problem with the food and the delivery driver can't resolve the problem, serve the food that's able to be served, document the issue on the daily meal count sheet, and make sure to notify me as soon as possible. Everybody's also getting shelf-stable meals this year. These meals are fully reimbursable meals, so they meet the meal pattern requirements, and they don't need to be kept cold or hot. So you'll be getting them at the beginning of the summer, and they'll last you all the way through the end of the summer without refrigeration or being heated. They typically include a milk, chips, meat sticks, salsa, and cheese, and maybe a fruit cup. It just depends on whether or not the salsa meets the 2 vegetable or fruit requirement. And Nutrition Group takes care of that. So they'll make sure that it's a fully reimbursable meal. You just have to make sure that you serve all the components, just like with any other meal. These meals are to be used only if delivery is later than when the meal service is scheduled to begin. So if your meal service starts at 11 and your truck's not there at 11:05, it's time to break out the shelf-stable meals. Or if you run out of meals during your approved meal service time. So your meal service time is 12 to 1, it's 12:45, and you've used up all 20 of your meals, but you still have kids coming. You can take your shelf-stable meals out then. These meals are not to be used to supplement meals. So sometimes these meals do seem kind of small, and kids might still be hungry. You can give them a second meal if you have enough, but you cannot just give these shelf-stable meals out as snacks. Second meals should not be shelf-stable meals. Second meals should only be leftovers. These shelf-stable meals are only in case of an emergency. If you do use any of the shelf-stable meals, make sure that you write the amount that you used on the daily meal count sheet. You'll see there's a line where it says shelf-stable meals. And that is shelf-stable meals. Now we're going to talk about your binder. You'll find the Site Supervisor Guide in the binder, and that is issued by the USDA. So that's everything that you need to know about being a site supervisor, which we talked a lot about it here today, but you can read through that if you'd like. You'll also find the civil rights PowerPoint that just goes over what we're going to talk about next in this presentation, actually, and the USDA program discrimination complaint form, which you will give to any participant or family that feels that their civil rights have been discriminated against. You'll also find your daily meal count forms and your daily temperature logs, your milk temperature log, and a Justice for All sign that you have to display at your site, and a photo release sign that you also need to display at your site. You're also going to have an empty folder for completed forms. So again, your daily meal count form, your daily temperature log, and your daily delivery slip will all go in that binder, in that folder at the end of your binder. Now we're going to talk about civil rights. You see on the screen the "And Justice for All" poster. That is in your binder and it's going to be posted at your site. It has to be posted at all times for any USDA program, so it needs to be up. If a site monitor or from the state comes to your site, they're going to check for that first. So make sure that that is up and visible for anybody to see that comes to your program. All kids and families that receive meals must be treated equally, regardless of sex, race, color, national origin, age, religion, or disability status. You cannot discriminate on any of those protected classes. Meals must be distributed on a first come, first served basis. If you serve on any other type of basis, boys first or girls first, that is considered a civil rights violation. You have to serve them on a first come, first served basis. You can't, if you have only a certain amount of second meals and a little boy comes up and a little girl comes up, you can't give it to the girl even though the boy came up first because you like girls better. You just have to treat everybody equally and the same and make sure that you're serving on a first come, first served basis. Make sure that your "And Justice for All" poster is hanging in a spot that's visible to children and families that are picking up meals. And if anyone wants to make a civil rights complaint and you cannot resolve the matter, give them a copy of the USDA program discrimination complaint form that is located in your binder and notify church union. Your first step should be to try to resolve the matter on your own. Say, oh, I'm sorry that you feel that way. How can I make it better? If they continue to say that their civil rights have been that they've been discriminated against, then you go ahead and give them that packet. Don't fight with them. Don't try to take the conversation any further. Just give them that form. And if they want to submit it to the USDA, they can do that. If not, then they don't. But just make sure that if you do hand out one of those packets, you notify us so that that we know to wait for it. It's time to put your knowledge to the test. It's Monday, June 15th. The delivery driver arrives. What should you do? A. Count each item. B. Take the temperature of all hot and cold food. C. Both A and B. D. Steal the truck. You should C. Both A and B. Count each item and take the temperature of all hot and cold food. Make sure that you're counting each item and taping the temps and recording them on the delivery slip. You're scheduled to receive 15 complete meals. You counted each item. You received 15 buns, 15 bags of cut apples, 15 cartons of milk, 15 bags of mini carrots, but only 10 hamburger patties. What should you do? A. Tell the driver it's fine, you probably will only get 10 kids anyways. B. Tell the driver you need 15 patties and to call Nutrition Group to figure out how to solve the problem. C. Shut the site down, everything is ruined. D. Let the driver leave and call church union. You should B. Tell the driver you need 15 patties and to call Nutrition Group to figure out how to solve the problem. Please do not let the driver leave and call church union because there's nothing I can do about it. So make sure that you're talking to your delivery driver. The temperature of the cut watermelon. The thermometer reads 65 degrees Fahrenheit. What should you do? A. Tell the driver it's fine, you'll serve them anyway. A little food poisoning never hurt anyone. B. Let the driver leave and call church union. C. Serve the watermelon. 65 degrees Fahrenheit is an acceptable temperature. D. Tell the driver the watermelon needs to be below 41 degrees Fahrenheit. You can accept them. Please call nutrition group to figure out how to solve the problem. The answer is D. Tell the driver the watermelon needs to be below 41 degrees Fahrenheit. You can accept them. Please call nutrition group to figure out how to solve the problem. Most likely the driver will run to the store, get you what you need, and the problem will be solved. The delivery driver brought you more hamburger patties and watermelon. You now have 15 complete meals at the correct temperature. What's next? A. Complete the delivery log and keep a copy for your binder. B. Complete the delivery log. No need to keep a copy for your binder. C. Remember the times, quantities, and temps and write them down later. D. Burn the delivery log. You should A. Complete the delivery log and keep a copy for your binder. Make sure you're keeping that copy. If you don't, then you'll need to get a copy somehow or remind them to bring them tomorrow. The delivery driver does not have a copy of the log for you to keep. What should you do? A. Pry the delivery log out of the driver's hands and send her on her way. B. Find a way to make a copy of the log, like take a picture with your phone, and tell the driver to make sure to bring a copy in the future. C. Tell the driver to bring the log tomorrow. D. Nothing. You aren't required to keep a copy of the delivery log. You should B. Find a way to make a copy of the log, like by taking a picture with your phone, and tell the driver to make sure to bring a copy in the future. It's 11 a.m. and it's time to start heating up the hamburger patties. What temperature should you heat them to? A. 135 degrees Fahrenheit. B. 165 degrees Fahrenheit. C. 41 degrees Fahrenheit. D. No need to heat them. Kids like cold burgers. The answer is 165 degrees Fahrenheit. All food needs to be reheated to 165 degrees Fahrenheit. That is the temperature that most bacteria is killed at, so it's safe to eat at 165. Even if you liked cold burgers as a kid or your own kids like cold burgers, this is different. We are feeding community kids, and we definitely don't want to be making any of them sick. So make sure that your burgers are heated to 165 degrees Fahrenheit, and any hot food is heated to 165 degrees Fahrenheit. Your scheduled service time is from 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. It's 11:45 and kids are lining up at your door. What should you do? A. Wait until 12 p.m. to serve the food. B. Start serving food right away. C. Give the kids apples to start snacking on while they wait. D. Turn the clock to 12 p.m. so it looks like it's time to start serving. What you should do is A. Wait until 12 p.m. to serve the food. If you start serving at 11:45 a.m., those meals are not eligible. Your eligible time is 12 to 1 p.m. That is the time that is approved by the state. That is the only time that you are allowed to serve food. You can't serve till 1:15. You can't serve at 11:45. Wait until 12 p.m. to serve the food. If you have an issue where your kids are always showing up at 11:45, we can get your meal time adjusted, but you have to tell me first. I'll run it by the state, they'll approve it, and then you can start serving at 11:45. But until that happens, 12 o'clock is the time to serve. 11:50 a.m., time to tempt the food. Where do you place the probe for the hamburger patties? A, in between two patties. B, through one patty. C, both A and B are acceptable. D, you tempt the food when it was delivered. No need to tempt now. You can do it one of two ways. Both A and B are acceptable. In between two patties, so if you squeeze two patties together and have the probe there, or through one patty, so just stick it through a patty. Either way will give you an accurate temperature, which should be 165 or higher. All of the food is at a safe temperature right before serving. Where should you log this information? A, on the daily meal count sheet. B, on the delivery log. C, on the daily meal temp sheet. Or D, no need to write it down, it's all in your head. You should log it on the daily temp sheet. You log the delivery temp on the delivery log, and right before serving, you log the temp on the daily meal temp sheet. Sometimes I see that some people think that it's all in your head and you can write it down later. Please don't do that. Please write it on the daily meal temp sheet right before service when you take it. It's 12 p.m., time to serve lunch. When should you record the number of children who received meals that day? A, as each child walks through the door. At 1 p.m. when the meal service is over. C, when the site monitor comes to pick up your paperwork in 2 days. D, as each child takes a meal. You should be logging that number as each child takes a meal. So not when they walk through the door, not when they're coming down the road, not after meal service is over. When each child takes a meal, that's when you cross off a number. The hamburgers don't look as appetizing as the ones at the gourmet burger restaurant down the road. What should you do? A, make faces and tell the kids the burgers look gross and you wouldn't eat them. B, smile and serve the burgers. C, offer ketchup, mustard, pickles, etc., if available, to spice up the burgers. D, both B and C are acceptable options. The answer is D. You should smile and serve the burgers and also offer condiments that might make the burgers look a little more appetizing. Please do not make faces. Please don't say this looks gross. Please don't say I wouldn't eat this. Please don't say I wouldn't serve this to my kids. Just make sure that you are happy and pleasant about the meals. Again, these are sound nutritious meals that they are not getting at home. So make sure that you are putting on a smile and you can offer condiments and spices as you'd like. While serving the food, you sneeze in your gloves. What should you do? A, wipe your gloves on your apron and continue serving. B, remove gloves and throw them away. Wash your hands, put on new gloves, then continue serving. C, keep the gloves on, wash them, then continue serving. D, what gloves? You should remove your gloves, throw them away, wash your hands for 20 seconds, put on new gloves, and then continue serving. Please, 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 please wash your hands and use your gloves. How and when should you communicate the day's meal number? A, call the nutrition group after meal service. B, call Calvary United Methodist Church and leave a voicemail for Liz every Friday because she totally checks that. C, call Liz at 10 p.m. every night. Her baby probably isn't sleeping anyway. D, text Liz a picture of the daily meal count sheet after the meal service. You should be texting me a picture of the daily meal count sheet after meal service. If you call Nutrition Group, they're going to say, who are you? Because they only deal with the sponsor, which is me. You can call Calvary United Methodist Church if you like, but I don't know how to check my voicemail, so I won't be getting that. Please don't call me at 10 p.m. every night. My baby is finally sleeping through the night. But please text me a picture every day after meal service so that I can see how many kiddos you had, how many meals you served, how many leftovers you had, and I can make adjustments as needed. That completes our Kiswell Network training for 2022. Please take this time to add my phone number and email in your phone so that every day you can text me or email me a picture of your meal count sheet for the day. Have a great summer!